Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and today we're looking at Ben and Ed. This game was graciously donated to me by one of my fans. There's a link down below where you can friend me on Steam. It gives me either a gift card if you don't want to choose a game, or you can just pick something off my wish list. Link down below to that also, and gift me a game. It's a nice way in which fans can support me by giving a one-time gift without having to support me through Patreon. Or any other service. So there's not a lot that I can even say about Ben and Ed. They don't even have a Wikipedia page. There's Ben and Ed, and then Ben and Ed Blood Party as kind of a pseudo sequel. I remember when this game came out, I believe in 2017, it was fairly popular amongst YouTube streamers because it's kind of an interesting thing. I also remember that a lot of streamers who streamed this had a specific song that got Content ID claimed because it sounded like a classical composition, like a performance of a classical composition, which shouldn't be copyrightable, but sometimes certain performances of even public domain songs are still copyrightable in the United States. It's ridiculous. The person who gifted this game to me also said that it ran pretty badly on their computer. We'll see how well my computer can handle it. I've got everything at 1080p and everything up to Epic that can be up to Epic. It looks good so far, although this menu is kind of a mess. It would have been fairly easy to put one column on one side and another column on another. And it only seems to have partial controller support because the Xbox One controller I have plugged in is not working on the menu. Also, this is one of many games that, for my setup, tend to be extremely loud. And on top of that copyright issue, just in general, I don't want sound effects and music to be that loud. So I have it outside in the Windows volume control down to 10%, and inside I have it down to 10% also, which really would mean it's approaching like 1% of its actual volume. We can see the controller inputs here. This is a 2D platformer, 3D platformer game is probably the best way to explain it. You play as a zombie who is, when fails, will lose parts of his body. There was kind of a weird Japanese game and a few other games that had the same idea, where this is Ben, he lives in a poopy world. I think we play as a zombie that's probably trying to save his friend Ben. Let's see, next. Well, the controller's still not working. Yeah, there was a few games where you could lose a body part and you just control a detached head. But they never really went that far with the idea, because the idea just kind of is silly and not realistic. One day Ben found Ed, the first undead. They became friends. Hans Showmaster heard of them. He took them apart to use them. So here he's chained up to a wall and he's telling him, you run to him. For the greatest game show ever created. So basically what this really boils down to is this is an Unreal Engine kind of asset flippy game that has enough of a concept to make sense. The controller is now working. So that's the prompts here are not quite right. So Y will respawn you, and this is dodge. Which one was the button to detach a head? That's it. So you can throw your head and roll. So yeah, it's a fairly simplistic game. I don't think we'll be opening any doors or anything like that. We'll just be avoiding challenges. So to slow down, let's see, run. Well, left trigger crouches, right trigger dodges, and right bump dodges. And the dodge seems to go in whatever direction you're putting. Let's see. Maybe it's left stick that slows you down. Right stick. Let's see. Here you have a gesture with the start button. Let's go back to this. There's a little bit of collectibles. Let's see. Aim head with this, crouch with this, move, pause menu, zoom camera with the D-pad. Yeah, there literally is no button on the controller to walk slower, and you can't even hit the B button to get back into the game. So yeah, there's a little lack of polish certainly you can see from this game. So yeah, and we're gonna try and run through piles of cans apparently, and yeah. How much of this is original art and how much of this is asset flippy, I guess, is part of the question. Because this might all just be original art, and it just might be that this is a slightly simplistic game. So my comparing it to an asset flip game might not really be a fair comparison. Really. That this may just be kind of a short and sweet indie game, which I don't inherently hate short and sweet indie games, but this is also kind of an action based one, so you have to be fairly careful with that concept, because then you have to get the programming just right, and if you don't get the programming just right, your game will not sell. This would have been one of those games that is in the era of things like Super Meat Boy, and so we need to throw that this way and then land on a switch, and that's a weird sounding switch, and then hit the B button to regain your body. There definitely is a level of comedy here that you're either going to have to be on board with or not. And B also opens that door when it's glowing, but only glowing doors by the light of it. Seems like there's no real reason to stand on the red part. And here we have a checkpoint. And let's see. Press enter to respawn. We already kind of know that. So I'm not having any problem here other than partial controller support. And apparently there was 2 more of those can piles to collect. I don't expect this game to be particularly too long. It does kind of have what you would call, by modern terms, a mobile game feel with a lot more collectibles than you typically would expect. This kind of feels like a Five Nights at Freddy's section. And it does kind of suck to have to do this with the mouse. We're looking for 15 cans, and I don't know if these are collectibles. I guess they are. Or if you get those by not dying. So as long as the game doesn't give me trouble and lag, it will just be a matter of of just how well can I platform. And I think I'm relatively decent at that stuff. There, I think, is certainly a point to talk about as far as the fact that I am playing this and going to air this during my Halloween month series of things, like of shows, of games I cover. And generally I try to, in the month of October, Halloween month, I try very hard to cover the spookiest of games. This is more kid friendly than that, at least on the first part of it. This is kind of just going to be a combination of Wipeout, which, yeah, I think you're supposed to kill the chickens. So yeah, like Wipeout, it does seem like you are going to have to be fairly careful, or you just run for it. Or you don't run for it. I mean, if it just chops off your head, you can just regain your body. And I guess there's just a slight difference there between getting a checkpoint and respawning at that checkpoint versus not getting a checkpoint and dying. So it seems like you get, here, let's see. It seems like if your body is intact at a checkpoint, that you are then given one of those markers. But see, even if I hit the pause menu, then I can't use the controller. So we'll have to bend over backwards to be fairly careful to not use the controller. There is a sensitivity problem I can feel in this controller. See, that just knocked me over. Like, it does accelerate too fast. Now, this isn't something that I would say is like a co-op game where you're hitting 5 or 6 controllers specifically to 5 or 6 buttons specifically to try and control something. It's more reasonable than that. It's just slightly awkward. Yeah, and I'm not sure it's really worth your time to try and race through all this just to ensure you don't lose a limb. But maybe it is important because maybe you lose points. You kind of can see how this game is gonna kind of heavily be repetitive, which isn't a bad idea, frankly, for making a kind of indie game. But I will say also, this developer, after making these 2 Ben and Ed games, has not really done anything else. probably needed to rush a little bit further, because it seems like the platforms are falling. It already seems a little repetitive though. I'm wondering if I missed something back there. Yeah, these things are falling, so you're not given the opportunity to take your time with them. So I may have missed something back there. And you're supposed to step on the chickens. No real reason why you're supposed to step on the chickens. And we'll jump past this point. And then we'll just reset. We'll see. See if we can manage to make it through that whole part without getting hurt. Well, no, they seem to kind of have thrown enough of a challenge at you at the end here that unless you were to just get good, you're probably not going to be able to make it even through the first section fully intact. It seems like everything was pretty much just warming up for this. Let's see. And I can certainly see how there might be some benefit to a system like this, and that certainly was how it was first sold in the first couple of games that had something like this as a concept, is that it was a way of not having such a crazy challenge. But yeah, I don't really buy it. I feel like you probably are just gonna either want to eventually just be done with this and finish a level, of which it seems like there's only a few levels anyways, or see, this is the problem. You do this and then you worst case scenario, you get your head cut off. Well, best case scenario, you get your head cut off a second time. Alright. And this really is just going to be a matter of, can you squeeze your body through? So now, let's do a full respawn there. And see, that's all we did. So, that's as far as you can go now, instead of getting a full body. And unless the game decides to reward us with something, or let us play specific segments without having to play the entirety of the level at some point in the future, like, I don't see a major encourager here to make you want to have to run through the entire levels to get to perhaps the very last section. which might be the one section you're having trouble on. It's not like they can guarantee that the sections would be better. You still get one of those. Alright, so it's not too bad. And then Ben is pretty much not animated at all. And I don't know if we really got everything we can get. So not a terrible run for the first level, but somewhat questionable as far as like how much of this actually unlocks. It looks like maybe just 60 levels, which doesn't really make sense, and doesn't really feel like there's anything here. Like, let's go back to the backstage area, and let's, now that we know what to do, let's see what we missed before. That's one. Is there some kind of vent or some place to roll your head? Because that's probably what this is. Unless you get into this area and those doors are open at some point in the future. Yeah, it doesn't really seem like much has changed. Let's see. Over that way, I don't see anything. And getting the right angle when tossing your head, not perfectly easy. Still just looking around. Get a checkpoint. Get that. It doesn't even look like the door will open until you respawn. Yeah, unless there was something way up there. I am just thoroughly confused. Like, how could I miss two things in that area? There must be some secret we're not getting. Alright, well, let's see. Next would be 12 levels, 18 levels, 24 levels. Well, I don't want to do potentially 25 hours in this game. So let's hop in here and let's get going. Yep. This is going to be kind of a game that really does just boil down to how it plays, and particularly how it plays on your PC. I would say look at my PC specs. I have an RTX 2080 graphics card, so if this is a game that is being a pain of a type of program because of the graphics, and then I've probably almost certainly powered my way through that problem with a 2080, but my CPU and setup in general is getting to be a little bit old. It was pretty powerful, however, for its times, and it's still pretty powerful. If anything, there's going to be a considerable lack of noticeable improvement if I were to build a new computer. I do want to do that, but it really is just going to get me maybe at most 800 megahertz more, and instead of being a 6-core, I'm thinking I'll maybe have an AMD new generation type CPU that might be able to do closer to 8 cores, even 12 cores, which a lot of games, a very large amount of games, probably won't work too well with that anyways, and the extra cores will be kind of pointless. And there is also a danger that even with the newest style of AMD CPUs, that games will not be as well programmed to handle those kinds of games, those kinds of CPUs, compared to an Intel CPU. All right. The chickens don't seem to give you points or anything. And it seems to me like that they're specifically saying that this checkpoint was only supposed to let your head through. And I imagine we run into a decent amount of that where they have sections where you grab your head off and throw it. And I would say that, yeah, this is probably, well, slightly silly and gory and zombie-ish. It's not something that I would imagine would upset even a 10-year-old kid to see. So this seems fairly kid-friendly. Although, yeah, why shouldn't it be kid-friendly? In all fairness, I have certainly seen some games, some zombie games that do go for more of an adult nature for really no good reason. Like, I'm not sure I want to actually name any of them, but yeah, there's definitely been some cheap asset flip games with zombies and anime girls in bikinis. This at least is trying to be a game that's respectable, for whatever that really means. But wow, so there we see physics shooting this very high up, and now we are on top of a map where almost certainly there would have been an invisible wall at some point. Like, there's a long fall down and there's a long fall up. But I can kind of tell that the the music is going to get fairly repetitive, and you'll have to be careful about things like that. Certainly in a game like this. And I can definitely tell that this game has definitely the potential to be annoying. This really is where a thing like Prince of Persia showed its intelligence by introducing the time rewind mechanics. Like this is definitely a game that would benefit from that. Honestly, this is a sequence that would probably be more entertaining if somebody was like drugged up in a first-person shooter and they had to wobble around after being like sedated or something along that line. Instead of this being the default and only gameplay mode. You can see that these are very large sections, and with the head throwing element introduced, you are now actually in a better situation because it kind of doesn't matter. In fact, let's do something here. If we can just get our head to kind of throw on the ground and not die, then you can kind of just roll through the whole level, and that is, I guess, an easy way to potentially get all the little collectibles without having to do anything. Well, you can see I'm sliding off the edge. And yeah, all of a sudden it's fairly easy to just cheat your way through this whole thing. And then of course you're doomed at the end. But maybe I can do something like that. Seems like you can. Seems like it's programmed in such a way that you are supposed to be able to do this. So the cameraman comes, they speed up specifically so that you can jump on them. And then all we've got to do is make it this far. Aim and throw. I don't even think you're guaranteed that you can hit the bullseye, or if that would get you an achievement of any kind. There's a limited number of levels here, so I feel like each level should probably be introducing something new. Like everything should feel a little bit different, or everything should iterate itself. Which button fires? Well, Y doesn't fire. aim, right trigger. It's left trigger. So we still missed one. Let's do a little experiment here. Now, can we start here? No. At least it doesn't seem like you can. So yeah, if you really want to get everything, you do apparently, by the looks of it, have to start at the very beginning of the game. And you have to do it all in multiple runs or a single run. You definitely can see that these are kind of ghosted out. But the chickens, maybe not so ghosted out. Yep. So is it really worth your time to try and do these runs multiple times? Not until you've hit that point where the game itself decides that you haven't collected enough cans or you haven't collected enough points. As long as you're above that threshold, I think you're fine. So yeah, and I imagine what I missed was some collectible that is well further than is worth your time. So let's see. Main menu. Let's go one more level, and then I think we'll probably end. You know, stupid backstage again. Feels like maybe what we're doing here is maybe we'll have a boss fight. I did hear that there was some kind of boss fight. So we can dodge through things. Interesting. And apparently we can't shut the door after we open it. So unless there was something back here. So they want you to make sure you really know dodge as an option. Which might explain what we missed before in the first level. Is that maybe we were supposed to dodge through things? Yeah, some just creepy designs that feel like they are intentional. Let's see where this leads us. I don't think I'm a big fan of dark areas on top of rolling ahead around. No, I just finished playing The Enemy Within 2, The Evil Within 2. And I suppose if you could play as a monster who has detached itself, this is just really bad. Really bad. If you could play as a monster that could detach its limbs and use that as a way of playing as some kind of character, That sounds interesting on the face of it. I don't know if anybody has gotten anywhere close to programming a game where that would actually make sense or work. You can see even here the programming seems wrong and the design seems wrong. The camera seems off. So either either this is a problem due to bad programming, or this is a program due to the resolution we're at, or some other graphical setting affecting the actual game physics of the world. Here we can play a little good Godzilla and break some stuff. I guess what they wanted you to do was chop off your legs. Okay, I guess that makes sense. And yeah, he crawls through better with just losing his legs than he does just that. And here we have a valve, which is probably a recommendation, a reference to this being on Steam and Valve. A lot of your standard AAA first-person shooter games, wow, the music just went quiet, do have kind of a lack of a falling action kind of puzzle sequence. So I wouldn't be upset with the idea of doing something like this in between regular standard run and gun shooting in something as like a dream sequence, as a game, as playing as a zombie in a Modern Warfare style game where zombies are usually the enemies. Yeah, but we can kind of see. All I'm gonna need is one more can of whatever these are. I kind of assume it's just cans of creamed corn, but I don't know if that's really the case. And it seems like we're gonna have a boss fight, but then this kind of feels like a boss fight, and this kind of feels like a boss fight, and then we start to see rather large requirements to get to level 10, which is a little weird, and then double the requirement to get to level 14. So, and then 120 more to get to level 19. It feels like the game might kind of mess us up quite a bit if and just kind of force us to play through the same levels over and over again. And it doesn't really feel like we'll get any new ability until we get a boss fight done. Do I really want to go back and check this and see if there's a dodge maneuver? No. And do I really want to take on this? Everybody loves clowns. 12, 1 full body. I think this is a boss fight. So if this is a boss fight, we'll do it. If it's not a boss fight, we'll give it up. So it's really dark. I would have much preferred glowing eyes if this was going to be an option, at least in a certain darkness. It seems like this is a really long hallway to roll the head down. It's super quiet. But yeah, I could definitely see nightmare sequences where you play as a zombie. Yeah, I don't know what the point of all that was. To allow you to roll this far for no reason. Unless we get chased down this section. And there's really no speeding this up from the looks of it. They very well may have been better off just having a pit or an invisible wall or barrier. Ideally, I guess you just put a barrier so that you couldn't roll back there while still seeing back there. Clearly, they want you to roll down this way. It's Minion 2016. They want you to see this creepy clown head and roll up on it. But boy, is this slow. Even ignoring the fact that I went backwards to see what was over there, it was still very, very slow. Okay. So I don't see a real reason to jump all the way back that way. And let's go. What are we looking for? Looks to me like there's probably a platform back behind here. And then we'll just evaluate. I'm glad that this isn't bothering to show me how many times I died or anything like that, because that would just be frustrating for no reason. Yeah, apparently I can break the trees if I run near them. I don't know what the real benefit of that is. And we don't really have a clear description as far as what would happen, but apparently I just managed to glitch it well enough to just ride the rails, as it were. And sure, you move faster in this current form, but this actually works better. Let's see. Enter. And then in the mouth we go, I guess, or into the back of the head. What was the button to launch? Was the question. I think it was right trigger. Okay. So we took him out once. I wish those trees and that cardboard would disappear. Twice now we've seen that the hand will act as much as a helpful thing as it will an unhelpful thing. So now we'll just run backwards here and see how well that works. It didn't work too well. In a weird way, they kind of want you to succeed. They just want to see you be in pain and dismembered multiple times first, because they wouldn't have put you in a location with cannons in the first place if they were just trying to kill you as a zombie in any kind of permanent way. But perhaps the idea is that it doesn't matter because there's no way to kill this kind of zombie. That might be also the case. Seems like they've specifically designed it in a way now that you have to go on the right side. It looks like there might be some way to get down there, but I don't know. It doesn't seem like you can survive a fall. But it does kind of feel like there are some platforms that are depicted down there. No, that might just be the checkpoint area that I'm seeing. Is there really a benefit to chopping off your legs? Because I don't feel like the hand is gonna move fast enough or high enough for that to really work. It feels like it's kind of low. And we can see it's... See, can I get close enough to hit this without falling off? Yeah, I don't think it's worth the effort to potentially have to throw your head and lose your head and then start. And they definitely are trying to make you have to fall to your demise. Alright, let's hit that. That's at least worth it. And then B, and then we'll aim. And no crosshairs, which is a little shocking. Well, this does definitely seem like it's going to get a little bit more dangerous. But it feels kind of repetitive too. And yeah, I think if you're just fairly careful with the jumping, so up here, over here, jump. There's a problem. Can I dodge through this side of the thing? Because it doesn't seem like I can. Yeah. I definitely could see people getting frustrated with this game fairly quickly. Like, I doubt there's anything here that makes the game easier or lets you just take a penalty and move forward or in any way improve your odds of not failing miserably. And well, I could see why this is one of those games that popular YouTube streamers would get popular playing or get a lot of views playing. It's really because of those YouTube streamers overacting their frustration and being silly, for lack of a better description, being a YouTuber. I can definitely say I would prefer to see some checkpoints happen here. There's really no reason to make me have to run all the way from the bottom to all the way to the top twice in perfect implementation. Now, if I am going to look at this game as a indie game, it's not terrible. There's nothing here that's absolutely atrocious. It's just, yeah, we know what this game is. It's going to be a frustration fest. It's going to have some inspiration from like Five Nights at Freddy's. Some small inspiration to something like that. This moves way too fast for me to try and get off of it when I'm on top of the hand. Although it does feel like if I was to manage to get hit upward by those hands, I might be able to get my body in a specific place. But I don't know. Let's see, the real question to ask here, under the options, is there some sensitivity options here? No. That's what this game would need more than anything, is a sensitivity adjustment. I suppose you probably could go through Windows and increase the sensitivity on your controller, but for the most part, most games have that internal, and most games are programmed to the exact level of sensitivity that you would expect and you would want for the players. Here, the acceleration when you press forward and start running is awkward and too high, and the controllers are a little bit slidey. It would be about the best way to put it. So they're a little slow to stop. When I let off of a input, it doesn't just come to an immediate stop. It slides a little bit, and it does just kind of feel like the angles often are just way off. This is not a game that gives you enough time to control the camera, and frankly all games need to be able to give you enough time to control the camera. Alright, we made it, but I'm not really happy about it by any means. Wow. It's either moving faster and I messed that up, or it just really decided. Alright, well let's try this. How far can we go with just our head? About that far. Yeah, you can definitely feel that there are some random particles that should disappear and despawn to ensure that the path is always clean and fair, where otherwise you're going to run into scenarios where things will just be in the way that aren't supposed to be in the way. Nobody really feels like they're doing great if they're having to reload checkpoints or save scum all over the place. And that's effectively what's happening here. Wow, I jumped, and by jumping, it bounced and moved the hand the other direction. Interesting. There's not a lot of points here where it saves you if you miss a jump also, which is not fun. Let's see. It seems like the game may have decided to slow down on me to be easier. It does really just jump up that hand. As soon as you're up at that level. So it feels like it's trying to be helpful, but yeah. This definitely doesn't feel like a game where I'm gonna try to 100% it, despite this being gifted to me. Like, a lot of games on my wishlist, in all fairness, are games I want to own to support the creators, and this is a game that probably falls under that category. It is seems like it's worthwhile to support the creators, although how much that support really means is a big question mark, certainly, because you just don't know. Like, they haven't made anything in a couple years since this game, but I also have seen some indie developers that have gone crazy and just made dozens and dozens of derivative works. The Five Nights at Freddy's series is a great example of that. They were made popular by YouTubers, and as such, the creator can now not escape the shadow of his own success, even though even the original Five Nights at Freddy's game was not intended, to my understanding, to actually be a horror game. It was supposed to be a kid-friendly, like, RPG experience, and he even tried to at one point make a kid-friendly RPG experience, and it still was just not well received because he had become known as the creator of the Five Nights at Freddy's series. A lot of games on my wish list also, if I'm not trying to support or don't feel like the creator needs support because they're an indie creator, they're games that I may only want to talk about, give a 30-minute to an hour quick look on, as it were, spotlight of it, and not really go through the frustration and the grinding. There's a lot of RPGs that might very well eventually just end up in that category, as it's hard, certainly, to justify putting in 200 hours across multiple RPGs. The Final Fantasy series is a great example of that. While it might be justifiable to play Final Fantasy 7 or Final Fantasy 13, playing Final Fantasy 13-2 or 13 Lightning Returns or Final Fantasy 4 or Final Fantasy 5 might not really be reasonable. And Final Fantasy 15 is an online game, so that one becomes particularly impossible to really see a vast majority of the content. It would have been so easy to just put a checkpoint here. That would have totally made sense. Right. If these controls were a little bit tighter, I would be happy. Let's see. Let's go ahead and jump. And he does seem to just swap between speeds. But it does kind of seem like what I need to do is make a mad dash to that point. Get in here. Let's aim ourselves a little bit higher. And then hope we can actually hit this. That took way too long. Way too long. Let's see. Let's do a little twerk. Let's see. 6 of 12 cans. So then it would become just a question about, do you want to, at this point, run around and throw your head, now that you don't have to really worry at different things of cans. Let's see. That's one. That's two. Are there any more over in this direction? No. And the music just goes quiet when there really should be more of a falling edge song, like a victory song, to kind of reward you for the fact that you went through all that struggle. Alright, did we miss anything else? Nope. So can, and we make it, and we're done. So a full 12 cans of, maybe it's brain juice or brains in a can. Okay, so it definitely feels like we may hit a rage quit point fairly quickly here. Like, we're at 51 cans of 120, and it may just start to get really difficult to justify doing these. Although there is a bonus level here also. And I would want to run back and get to all these. Now, when you click on these, it does show you what we've collected, so yeah. We don't know what you get for getting all the little golden zombies, but we also can see I've mostly gotten all the cans, so it'd be rather hard to go back and collect any that we've missed. Like, I'm missing 2 here and like 1 here, and that's it. So that'd be 3. So in level 7, 8, and 9, which levels must just get increasingly longer, and they're going to introduce lasers at some point, we can see there's a massive 67 cans. That's a lot. 20, 40, 60. Yeah, that at least 22 cans per level. That is asking quite a lot. And certainly my frustration is already up quite a bit with this game. I'm not ready to rage quit yet, but I also don't feel like I probably would want to go too hard on doing all of this. Apparently we haven't unlocked bin apocalypse, and select episode brings us to that point where a new game would just start a new game. So let's see what challenges does. No blood, no viewers. Like, I did look at the achievements for this game. There is something about collecting viewers, like 1,100, I believe, is the max achievement there. This seems to be the only. How many viewers can you impress in this randomly generated obstacle course? Okay. So you get 20 for every section where you're full-bodied, and then 50 times for every section you're full-bodied is how I'm understanding that. I don't think that's correct at all. And so I don't know how that would really work. Yeah, I could certainly see people, again, if they really were getting views as a YouTube content creator, wanting the challenge mode. But I don't know if anybody who really was playing this game just for their own entertainment would want randomly generated challenges after playing the whole game. Depends if you just, I guess, beat the game completely and aren't frustrated at all. If you're just an expert at the way this game controls and 3D platforming, then you probably would want randomly generated challenges. But I think most people will be more than happy just to do the main game, if even that much. There is also certainly a value question in a game like this, because I think you do have a high number of people that wouldn't really like it. This also would have been a game that came out before the no questions asked 2-hour mark on refunds on Steam, so I wouldn't be surprised if once that got implemented, a lot of people played this for less than 2 hours and just refunded it. But yeah, that's going to be our first episode of Ben and Ed. I wouldn't be surprised if we just do 2 or 3 hours in it and then rage quit. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me even further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.